Hey, if you're a developer who uses AI, you're going to want to listen up. There's a huge shift happening right now that could totally change how you build, and maybe more importantly, how much you're spending. Let's get into the router revolution.
So let's just start with the core problem, and this quote just nails it. We've all gotten into this habit of calling on the biggest, most powerful AI model for every single task. From brainstorming some crazy, complex architecture all the way down to writing a simple line of code. It's kind of like hiring a PhD in quantum physics to do your basic arithmetic. I mean, sure, they'll get the answer right, but it's just unbelievably inefficient and expensive.
And just how expensive are we talking? Well, fixing this one single mistake could slash your AI API costs by up to 80%. Yeah, you heard that right. 80. Look, this isn't some tiny optimization we're talking about. It is a massive financial game changer. And today, we're going to break down exactly how the smartest teams out there are pulling this off.
So let's put a name to this problem, the overhired AI. This whole one-size-fits-all approach where you just throw your most expensive model at every single prompt, it's breaking the bank. For individual developers, for big companies, for everybody. It was a fine way to start, but the industry is definitely moving on. Which brings us to a pretty bold statement. The one model to rule them all era is over. It's dead. That old way of thinking, picking the top model on some leaderboard and just using it for everything, is officially outdated. There's a much, much smarter way to do this.
And that new, smarter approach? That's what we're calling the router revolution. See, this isn't about finding one single better model. It's about building a better system that actually uses multiple models, all working together in harmony. This is a strategy that the really forward-thinking engineering teams are jumping on right now.
So, what in the world is model routing? Well, it sounds technical, but it's actually a really simple and kind of beautiful concept. It's basically a piece of software, a router that sits in the middle of your workflow. It looks at the task you're asking the AI to do, and then it automatically sends it to the best model for that specific job, perfectly balancing those three things we all care about: cost, speed, and raw intelligence.
The shift in thinking here is just crystal clear. The old way was all about brute force, one super powerful, super expensive model for every single query. The new way, it's all about finesse. It's about using the right tool, or in our case, the right model, for the right job every single time.
Now, to make this even clearer, I love this analogy. Think of your new AI setup not as one single super genius, but more like a general contractor who's managing a whole team of specialists. This is what we call your hybrid stack. You've got different experts for different tasks, and the contractor makes sure they all work together seamlessly. And here's why this general contractor approach works so well. It turns out the classic 80-20 rule applies perfectly to AI development. About 80% of the tasks we give an AI are actually pretty simple, right? Writing boilerplate, adding comments, figuring out some regex. Only about 20% are the really complex brainbusters, like designing system architecture. So why are you paying premium prices for that giant 80% slice? So here's what your contractor's team actually looks like. First, you've got the brain. This is your state-of-the-art model, your senior architect that you bring in for the really hard stuff. Then you've got the hands. These are the fast, cheap, or sometimes even free open-source models. Think of them as your junior developers. Perfect for just cranking out those simple, repetitive tasks super quickly and at basically no cost. Okay, so right now you might be thinking, this sounds great, but does this mean I have to manually pick a model for every single prompt I write? And the answer, thankfully, is no. Because the best part of all of this is that the entire process is now being automated. New tools are making this kind of smart routing totally effortless. Case in point, and this is some pretty recent news, the popular Cursor IDE just quietly dropped a stealth update with a new feature they're calling auto context routing. This isn't some future promise. This is a real tool you can use today that basically automates this entire philosophy for you.
And check out how simple it is. Step 1, you just type your prompt, same as you always do. Step 2, in the background, like instantly, the IDE analyzes how complex that prompt is. And step 3, it automatically routes it. Simple prompt, it pings a fast, cheap model. Really complex prompt, it calls in the big guns. You don't have to do anything different at all.
The experience for you, the user, is just magic. Your AI feels way faster on simple tasks because it's using a lightweight model, but it's still just as brilliant on the hard problems because it knows when to swap up to the powerful one. You literally get the best of both worlds, and you don't even have to think about it.
And hey, this whole revolution isn't just for your desktop IDE. It is happening in mobile too. For example, Flutter developers can now use a package called Flutter_AI_router. What this does is it lets them build apps that use a tiny on-device model for fast, offline features, and then it automatically switches to a more powerful cloud model when you've got an internet connection. It's the exact same routing principle, just creating that perfect hybrid user experience on a phone.
So, as we wrap this up, it's really important to see this for what it is. Model routing, it's not just a clever cost-saving trick. It is your new superpower as a developer. We are entering what you could call the smart context era, where the real intelligence isn't just in the model itself, but in the smart system you build around it.
So let's just do a quick recap of the takeaways here. Number 1, you drastically, and I mean drastically, cut your costs. Number 2, you get a huge speed boost for the majority of your tasks. 3, you still get that top-tier quality for the really complex problems. And finally, you can automate this whole thing with tools that exist right now for both your desktop and for mobile apps.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. For the last few years, the big race has always been about who has the most powerful AI. Well, that's changing. The really crucial question for developers from now on is going to be, how smart is your setup?